Chris, you smell that?
Smell what?
Do you smell what the Scorpion King is cooking?
Wow.
Welcome back to Crosscut, everybody. I am Josh, The Rock Johnson, and this is, what's your name again?
And I am.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Wow.
All right, now you can actually say your name.
And I'm your other co-host, Chris.
Oh yeah, I'm a co-host, by the way. I didn't say that part. Anyways, welcome back to Crosscut, everybody. We are continuing the Mummy franchise. This is a spin-off of the Mummy. We are watching the 2002 action-adventure, somewhat comedy, The Scorpion King.
The Scorpion King.
Chris, tell me about The Scorpion King.
I know it never really did very well.
It did very well when it came out.
It did?
Financially, it made money.
I know it has a okay rating.
Oh, the rating, yeah, the ratings is...
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what I meant, but I've always loved this movie as a kid. Even though I knew who The Rock was, the wrestling and whatnot, I didn't care about it. I was just like, ooh, this looks interesting. And the whole spin-off of The Mummy Returns, Scorpion King, and I got excited about it. I was remembering every single damn scene from this movie. Like, okay. I really remember it. And I really enjoy this movie, even though it's just fun. It's so much adventure. It's got so much action. The lines are so corny, but
well,
they work.
That was my overall review. Where did I put it? It's a fun yet cheesy action with laughable, in a good way, one-liners. That was my overall review of the movie.
I know The Rock, he wanted his character in the film to be non-related to wrestling at all.
Oh, well, we're going to get into some wrestling.
Okay. Well, I was just going to throw that out, that he wanted it to be very away, like he wanted to do his own character in this thing. But there was one thing that he could not escape.
Yeah, do it physically. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, he does that a few times throughout the movie, and it works well for some comic relief, because he does it. I think he does it twice, and I think he does it once when the sorceress is.
No, he only does it once. Then
no, he does it twice. He does it because the sorceress tells him about her losing her powers, based on something. And he gives a look. I remember he gives a look.
Oh yeah, it's like really a close-up shot of him just doing it.
Anyways, I talked about this in our Mummy Returns episode. My introduction to this movie, I saw this in theaters, and this was the first ever advanced screening I ever went to. And it was funny because I know I probably haven't rewatched the whole movie since probably that screening, which was 20-something years ago. I've definitely seen it on TV throughout the years, and probably watched a piece here, watched a piece there. But rewatching it earlier today, man, it brought back some memories of being in that theater as a 12-year-old in a packed theater, because that opening where he goes to rescue his brother, man, when he comes on screen, I remember people going crazy. People were applauding. And then he does his first line, which is boo. And people were laughing. And I don't know, just people were just so into it, man. And as a 12-year-old, I couldn't help but be into it. And just rewatching it, and it definitely started coming back to me as well. Some of the because I kind of forgot about the middle part of this movie. I was like, I don't really remember much. Yeah, I was like, I don't really remember much about it. I remember the beginning. I remember the brother. So when the brother came on, I was like, oh, that's right, the brother gets killed. And then, spoiler alert, everybody. And I remember the ending of the movie, but I was like, I kind of remember parts. I know Michael Clark Duncan kind of disappears for a bit, and then he comes back at the end.
He appears in the very beginning of it. Yeah, you don't see him at all until a good
maybe the last
30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, 30, 40 minutes. Yeah, exactly.
But I like his character. Who doesn't like Michael Clark Duncan to begin with?
Well, let's talk about the cast real quick. So just to give a few names. So obviously our main lead is played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Right.
And our main villain is played by an actor named Stephen Brand. Michael Clark Duncan plays, I guess he's his enemy-ish in the beginning, but then they team up kind of thing later on, and then they become brothers at the end. And then our main female is Kelly who you probably recognize for some movies like X2. I remember her in X2,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
she was in like one of the Nightmare or not Nightmare, Friday the 13th movies back in the day. But this is like this and X2 are the two things I always remember her from. But like, man, woo! Even
Josh's
watching this
cutie
as
of
an
the week, Kelly
adult,
Who.
oh my goodness, she is sexy. Oh my God.
Okay,
I mean,
okay. Settle
there's the
down, settle
obviously
down.
there's the iconic her coming out of the water scene,
Of
which man, this
course.
movie for PG-13, this movie pushed the limits of like potential
It,
nudity.
like it
Just
literally says it's moderate. Like I think that's the only thing you really see that's like
I I
I
remember that scene where she comes. That's like an iconic kind of scene from the movie. But like even throughout the rest of the movie, just like her outfits, I was like, holy crap! I think that's why you
wow.
were a few minutes late coming on because you said, "Hang on, I got to
Ha,
use the
ha,
bathroom."
Ad lib masturbation joke.
ha, ha.
Anyways, Kelly Hugh, and to round out our cast, there was the older guy, the scientist. It was killing me. I was like, who is this guy? I've seen him in something. Bernard Hill. He played Captain Smith in Titanic. That's what it was.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes,
And
yes,
then
yes.
our main comic relief, the character's name is Arpid, played by Grant Heslov, who actually has had a pretty prominent behind the scenes career. He works with like George Clooney a lot, and I think he does a lot of like
Okay.
producing and writing, and I think he's even maybe won an Oscar at some point. So
Well, see,
he's
I've only known him from the Scorpion King. I can't
yeah,
think of
he's
anything else.
yeah, he won an Oscar, and I'll tell you what movie in just a second. It's probably like Argo. I won, or
Marco?
maybe I was right. He won for Argo.
Damn, I
Grant
haven't
Heslov.
seen
So the
Argo in
so
a
the comic
while. So.
relief in this movie is a Academy Award winning producer.
There you go. And speaking of producer, this has a lot of ties to WWE.
Well, that's what I said. We're gonna get into some wrestling. So Vince McMahon is executive producer on this movie,
Right.
but do you know why he's an executive producer?
He actually owns the title The Rock.
That's the only reason he's the executive producer. He had nothing else to
Yeah.
do with this movie besides that.
But I know, and it's just you even see in the end credits like executive producer Vince McMahon, and then association with the WWE. You're like, yeah, yeah, I know, whatever.
And this movie kind of so this is The Rock's first like real leading role, technically. The only thing he really appeared in before would have been The Mummy Returns as a smaller role. This was like
And
his
he's
first time as a leading man.
and a fun fact that in The Mummy Returns, he didn't even speak English.
I was reading he broke the record for the highest salary for a first time leading man
Yeah,
with like 5
five
point something
point,
million.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Which would be something that this movie would be kind of a kickstart to his filmmaking career. Because I mean, what
It
if this
did, it
movie just
really did.
absolutely? We know the movie obviously like wasn't critically received well, but like if this movie just absolutely tanked and he was just considered terrible in it, I think that could have maybe killed his
That's
film
true.
career,
Yeah.
and we never would have had The Rock. He probably just went back to wrestling and been fine doing that, and but the
Yeah,
rest is history. So yeah, I mean, this movie really sets up what we would get to know The Rock to be for the next 20 something years as an
right, and he
actor.
can
He's just
stay.
he's the action star, but he's funny, he's charming, and
Yeah, I mean
that's all on display in this movie.
and that's most of his movies too. He's the big guy, the action, and he adds a lot of humor to his character. He still does that. Like his latest movie that he did, Code Red, or was it
Oh,
Code
Red One. Yeah, I never
Red
watched that.
One? Same thing. Big guy, still serious face, but still has some humor in it. But his characters are always the same. They just work with the roles.
I mean, if you're gonna be a one-trick pony, then you might as well be really good at that one-trick pony and milk
I
the
mean,
hell out of it, and that's what
shit,
he's
he's
done.
literally twice the size he is from the Scorpion King, and he was already big in that movie.
But yeah, you mentioned humor, so this movie is pretty funny. I was chuckling
Yeah.
throughout. There's actually some really good little lines in here. This movie's co-written by Stephen Sommers, who
Right.
did the first two Mummies, and the first two Mummies obviously had a lot of humor in it. And I think his humor kind of trickled into this. It was co-written by two other people as well, but I feel like you could feel that Stephen Sommers effect with the humor, which the movie really needed that, because if it was just a straight fantasy kind of movie, then I don't think it would. I just feel like it just would have been so boring. Because
It would
like
have been too whimsical and serious.
the action is fun, but it's I don't know, maybe it was more fun in 2002. I just feel like we see something like that now, and it just feels kind of watered down now that we've had such crazy medieval looking movies and TV shows over the years.
most of the movie of the Scorpion King is practical. Speaking of practical, the fight scene with Michael Clark Duncan when the swords break, they actually broke. They weren't supposed to. The reactions on their faces were like, "Holy shit!" There was actual reaction because shards went everywhere, but they kept it in the movie.
Nice. Yeah, I mean the action works for the time being. You know, obviously you have The Rock, and that, and then going back to wrestling, I feel like there's the one scene where I think he is fighting Michael Clark Duncan, and that felt like a wrestling match to me because you had, I think that was their let's have like a wrestling moment, and they had the audience literally watching them
Mhm.
two fighting, and I was like, yeah, this is definitely like wrestling. I didn't grow up watching wrestling as a kid. Like I
I
wasn't
didn't
into
either.
it. My friends were into it. I obviously knew who The Rock was. I knew he was a wrestler, but I just didn't. I didn't know anything about that
Yeah,
whole stuff. So
yeah. I mean, neither. I had my friend too that was a super fan of wrestling, and he knew everything. I was like, okay, cool.
one of the things about this movie is it's very short. It's a very short movie. It's like 90 minutes, which that's a
Yeah.
funny thing. I remember as a kid going to see this movie with my friend. And I remember saying to my friend, man, I bet this movie's going to be long. It's going to be like 2 hours, something like that. Because the mummy movies were long. Like as a
Yeah,
kid, I felt like a 2 hour movie felt like an epic long movie.
yeah, of
And that's
course,
just
yeah.
like these types of movies feel like those big epic kind of movies, like very grand in scale. And then I remember going to see it, and it was just so short. And I was like, "Oh wow, that was pretty short." But it was a movie that always stuck with me over the years. And
Because it's a cool movie. It's fun. You actually engage for most of the movie.
yeah, it's fun. You know, we have a somewhat whatever kind of villain. I can't. I every time they say
Yeah.
his name, I can't remember it. I know it'll start with like the letter M or
Memon,
something.
Memon,
Yeah,
I think
he's pretty bland. Nothing too
he
crazy.
is.
I like the story with he kind of rose to power because of the sorceress and like
Right.
her visions. Like I like that and the story, and like even the reason he spares the scorpion or the rock in the beginning was because she told him to, but it seemed like she was just looking out for the rock at that point, because usually you could have some like cheap like go kill him, but he's like no, keep him alive. So I liked that storyline of his rise to power and
Yeah.
everything.
But they really, if you put it like that, yeah, he does appear not even through most of the movie, but it's like I don't know. They could have been more confrontation with him too.
He wasn't a terrible bad guy. I thought he was okay. I like the scene towards the end with him and the sorceress where he was testing her with the snakes. Like I remember
Okay,
that
that was a cool
scene.
scene. Yeah, I like that
So
one.
I like those little, I don't know, just like clever nods of like keeping you kind of engaged that way. This movie's
Mhm.
directed by Chuck Russell.
Mhm.
He's done some fan favorite movies of mine. He did the best Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream
Dream
Warriors.
Warrior.
He also
Wow,
did the
great
Blob remake.
graphics.
You ever seen the that's not Dream Warriors, but
That is
uh
one.
nope, that's Freddy's Dead, Final Nightmare, because he's
Damn.
using the power glove.
Yes. I
Anyways, he also did the Blob remake, which is really
I never
freaking good
saw that.
movie. And a movie that you're familiar with, as most people in their childhood would be, The Mask with Jim Carrey.
Now
So
that's a good.
he's had a pretty nice career. He was actually like partners with Frank Darabont growing up, because him and Frank Darabont actually co-wrote that Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And then
I,
obviously they went their separate ways, and Frank Darabont had a pretty nice career doing some movie called The Green Mile. So the two things they have in common is working with Michael Clark Duncan.
speaking of the Green Mile, I read there was like a nod to the Green Mile when the sorceress is like healing him. It's like what Michael Clark Duncan does in the Green Mile.
Yeah, that could have been a nod to that, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's doing that. You're healing, you're absorbing his like venom or
Yeah.
whatever.
I'll tell you, Kelly Hughes, she could heal me any day.
Wow. Goodness.
There's definitely some, some sexiness going on in this movie, not just with her, but like even like some of the other like female kind of background actors in the movie, and they're just like pretty
Yeah.
scantily clad, and man, just 12-year-old me must have been going crazy for that. I'm sure little baby Chris was also
Oh
very,
my
very
God.
pleased with a smile on his face. Scorpion King, pushing the limits of PG-13 sexuality.
Yeah.
So ultimately, this movie is really, it's just like a revenge story when it comes down to it.
I mean,
So if
he literally says that after he gets buried alive,
pretty much he's just going to go after the main bad guy because he killed his
Yeah.
brother, and he's essentially the Rock is the last of these. What are they
Arcadian.
called? The Arcadians? Yeah,
Mhm.
last of his people. And
Right.
well, I don't know. Maybe he'll keep the legacy going with Kelly Hu.
Well,
So
I mean, he did say, my people will live on through me.
okay, so I'm gonna get to a section now that I don't know about that you're gonna know about because you mentioned this on one of our episodes. We're gonna talk about the sequels for a little bit. You said you've seen 2 or 3 of the sequels.
I saw Scorpion King, the second one, and I think the third one.
So obviously, The Rock does not come back. This is his last
No,
appearance as a Scorpion
this is
King,
one and only.
which would have been cool to see him come back at some point. What do you remember about the sequels? Do you remember this kind of them setting up at some point, setting up the Mummy Returns at any point?
Not even close.
So it's all just like kind of
It's
like
all
solo
prequels.
stories. Okay.
They're all prequels. It's literally the second one is about him and his people, like
Mhm.
before they're wiped out and whatnot.
Oh, so it's even a prequel to prequel.
It's about his people and how he's trying to become the warrior that he is now in the Scorpion King.
So they probably did that because The Rock didn't come back, and they're like, let's just get a younger actor and we'll
Pretty
make a
much.
prequel.
And the third one is like completely off. So like they just get worse and worse. Pretty much.
It's unfortunate. I think there was like 4 of them, I want to say, because
Yes.
on
I think there's
IMDb it went up to like 4. So I do
I
wonder if
remember
like
the
the
third
fourth
one's
one.
more whimsical,
Mm.
more like supernatural kind of thing. I was like, you're losing me here.
I mean, we're definitely not covering the sequels at any point. So, people in the comments, if you've seen the 4th Scorpion King movie, let us know if it actually sets up the Mummy Returns. Because rewatching the first Scorpion King, I was like, it would have been fitting for it to lead into the Mummy Returns, but they obviously don't do that because
It's the
the potential
spell.
for sequels.
I mean, that's when you let your imagination wild. Like he became the Scorpion King. Probably later on, he tried to conquer Egypt, got his bracelet from Anubis, made a deal and whatnot.
Well, that's another interesting thing is that Scorpion King, he's portrayed as a villain, or not. Mummy Returns, he's portrayed as a villain. Scorpion King, he is the hero, obviously.
Right.
So it's just such an interesting dynamic there.
Well, what if it was like this? Maybe something happened when he was ruling, and the sorceress died, so he has no one, and starts becoming more and more like evil because he has nothing else to lose. He wants everything.
I like that thought. What I would say to that is, I'd want to see that.
I know, right?
It would not have worked, I guess, at the end of this movie. It just would have been too prolonged of a sequence.
Sure.
Do you think you could have added a half an hour to this movie and had all that stuff happen? Or some sort of like kind of montage?
They already had to shoot more for the movie to begin with.
Yeah. I know they only had like 70 minutes or something like that. Which it actually was, it's weird because there's actually like an extended cut of this, which is like 100 minutes, which I'm not sure what that extra like 8 or 9 minutes would be. Maybe it's just more Kelly Hu being naked,
all
but
deleted scenes.
Probably all the nudity that got it rated R. But yeah, I would have loved to see that movie, man. If they could have made one more Scorpion King with The Rock, and it was
just to
like
lead it in, just to lead it in.
And like even this movie ends with obviously him gonna be with the sorceress, and they'll probably start a family. So it would have been nice to see what does eventually happen. Like, is this his, Anakin Skywalker story? Does he fall from grace and bad things happen, and this is how he becomes evil?
That's what I think. Yeah, everything fell apart for him, and so he just takes his army and goes to conquer.
I wonder if they were gonna make another like an actual sequel that wasn't like a straight to DVD kind of thing, and The Rock was just like, "Nah, I got other stuff going on," and I don't know. But yeah, it would have been nice to see that. Maybe he'll finish his career by making the Scorpion King 2, like the actual one. But he'd be too old because in The Mummy Returns, he's like the same age as he is in
he's
Scorpion
practically
King.
Immortal, whatever.
As you said, he's a bit bigger now, so he can't. I don't know. That'd be some weird like de-aging technology going on.
No Harrison Ford going on. Come on, no.
So I did want to end it with this. I fucking love the end song of this movie.
Oh yeah,
Is I Stand Alone.
that's me.
Godsmack, yeah. When that started playing, because I knew I wanted to watch the credits and just see some of the names. When that started playing, first of all, complete wrong song for this movie. But I did not care. I was so into it. My thought is, and I think my note is, like, that is such an early 2000s most epic end song ever.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think movies would do that nowadays. Now it'd have to be that like classic song that would fit into the, the theme and everything. But like when I heard fucking Godsmack, I was like, yo, like let's go. Like this is epic. I was so into it.
That's just like with A Knight's Tale.
Mm-hmm.
All these rock
Yeah.
songs do not belong in that era, but it works.
It works because it gets you pumped up. And just imagine being 12-year-old me in that theater with like a bunch of probably, wrestling fans who probably are also into like hard rock and heavy metal. And you hear freaking Godsmack at the end of your 90-minute epic adventure. Like, you're probably like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen you've never seen the movie Nope, have you? Jordan Peele's Nope.
No, I just saw Get Out. That's it.
There's a fun Scorpion King reference in that movie where, if anybody's seen the movie, you already know the reference, but I'll just tell you. The main guy, his family owns like horses on screen, like they use them for like movies and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And he says the first movie he ever worked on was the Scorpion King, and then he wears a Scorpion King hoodie throughout the movie. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Funny. So it was like a fun reference. Funny. And I think this movie was filmed in like parts of California, but also like Arizona. But like, what a crazy difference between like The Mummy, where they were in like Jordan, like Middle East and all that, and
actually on
Scorpion
location.
King, right? And the Scorpion King, they're like, yeah, we don't have the budget, so you're just gonna go to Arizona and we'll call it a day. But I mean, I believed it. It looked pretty good for.
Yeah, that's another thing. At first glance, where do you think they are?
Egypt.
Why?
Because of Mummy.
Right, but throughout the movie, it doesn't really. You don't see anything related to Egypt.
Well, this was like pre-pyramids, they said, so that's why I didn't think that.
Pre-pyramids?
That's what they say in the beginning of the movie. Before the pyramids were made. That's where this movie takes place.
Well, the only thing that to me that tied Egypt to the movie was his guards.
Okay.
To me, that was it. Because it all looks Mesopotamian, very like Sumerian almost, like just something not Egypt.
I mean, I just assumed Egypt because the Mummy Returns and everything and all that.
Yeah, so. you would assume because of that, yeah, but visually, it does not look Egypt to me.
No, because it's Arizona.
What I mean.
Anyways, so The Scorpion King, the first ever feature film led by The Rock. And what a career it's been since these days, these old days where he was wrestling and just becoming a movie star. I think this movie is a lot of fun. It's a short little snippet of the Mummy universe. And, what could have been if they made more with The Rock. I would have liked to have seen that lead up to The Mummy Returns, but as you said, use your imagination, I guess. So, Chris, final thoughts.
It's an epic adventure. You'll love the characters. You'll love the setting. You'll follow the storyline easily. It's just fun. Like you said, there's the connection to the mummies, and I don't know. It's just fun. I can't say anything else, but it's a fun movie to watch.
All right. Well, you heard it from Chris first. It's a fun movie. So that's all we got for this week's episode of Crosscut. Make sure to hit the like, the subscribe, comment. Have you seen those sequels? What'd you think of them? Do you think they should go back to this franchise at any point? We've been seeing Mummy remakes over the years. Will we ever see a Scorpion King remake? Jason Momoa, are you available? I'm just kidding. Anyways, that's all we got for this week's episode. Chris, take it from here.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Live free.
Die well. All right.
Moving on.
Oh, yeah, that too. All right, you jabronis. Have a good night.